Hi, I'm Owen, and today I'm going to be talking about the importance of personal leadership. In the next few minutes, I'm going to be discussing topics such as Covey's 7 habits of highly effective people, Myers-Briggs personality types, Goldman's leadership styles, my personal mission statement, and Rolf's model of reflection. Now, moving on, let's talk about Covey's 7 habits of highly effective people. And those are: be proactive, begin with the end in mind, putting first things first, thinking win win, seek first to understand, then to be understood, synergy, and finally, sharpen the saw. Now, going into habit 1, be proactive, this includes proactive people versus reactive people, your circle of concern, which are things that are out of your control, and influences, which are things that you can control. Additionally, having a growth mindset is important in habit 1. Now, a proactive person would focus on the influences and things that they can control. So, for example, if they failed an exam, they would blame themselves that they didn't study enough and that next time they will and improve. Whereas a reactive person would focus on the circle of concern and things out of their control. And they would blame, let's say, the teacher or the test, and they wouldn't uh, be able to take responsibility for their own actions. Now, a growth mindset is also important. And a growth mindset is believing that if you struggle with a certain skill or ability, that they aren't necessarily set in stone. Now, this is really important in being proactive because if you're able to, if you know you're able to improve, then you can take steps to do so. Now, a personal experience I had with being proactive was the ABCs. Now, the ABCs is a method for breaking the tasks that you have to do in a day apart. So you categorize each task with importance, how important they are. So very important tasks will be categorized as A, slightly less important tasks as B, and finally C with the least important tasks that you have to do that day. And I did that. I wrote down tasks I had to do, categorized them, and this really helped because I was able to cross them off, do them one by one, um, and be able to complete all the tasks well and in the time I wanted to. Now, moving on to habit 2, begin with the end in mind. Now, in this habit, it's important that you're able to define a clear vision for your goals and values and able to align these with your long term objectives. Covey also talks about how everything is created twice, first in your mind and then in the real world. Also, having something to work towards is important because if you're able to define your goals, values, and long term objectives, then you're able to have something to work towards, keep improving your skills and attributes, and develop as a person in general. Now, habit 3, putting first things first, is all about prioritizing your tasks, and this can be categorized into importance and urgency. Covey also talks about saying no to distractions and unimportant requests. A personal example I have on the next page is how I categorize tasks into urgent and not urgent, and important and not important. Now, these are some everyday tasks that I go through. So you can see this table is based on urgent, not urgent, important, and not important. The categories in the top left, urgent and important, are necessities, such as brushing your teeth, shower, and other things that I do in the day. Then there's effectiveness, which is not urgent and important. Third, urgent and not important, which are distractions. And finally, not urgent and not important, which are categorized as waste. Now, this was just an example that I used for habit 3. Let's move on to habit 4. Now, habit 4, thinking win win, is all about creating win win situations for two parties involved in a situation. However, there are alternative outcomes which include lose win, win lose, lose lose, or no deal. Let's focus on thinking win win. Covey described 5 decisions of win-win. It includes character. Now, this is what you take into these situations and what you built from the first 3 habits. So you could say it's the foundation of win-win. Secondly, you need to be able to trust the other party, because if you're able to trust them, then it's more likely that you can create a win-win situation. So that means be genuine, listen in depth, and both parties need to come with a win-win mindset and not trying to come with a win-lose so that you win, which is selfish. Thirdly, there's agreements, which give direction to win-win, which are desired results, guidelines, resources, accountability, and consequences. Now, number 4, supportive systems. You need to have a supportive system that support win-win rather than other ones. And finally, we have processes. Now, this is seeing the problem from the other party's point of view, which means putting yourself in their shoes. You need to identify the key issues, um, and accept a result after, which in the ideal situation is win-win, but a no deal, which is neutral, is also a good outcome. Transitioning into habit 5, which is seek first to understand, then to be understood. Now, this habit is a lot about listening and how there are different levels of listening. Those include ignoring, pretending, selective listening, attentive listening, and the highest form, empathic listening. It's also all about paradigms and how we all see the world differently based on our values, beliefs, experiences, and memories. Now, to understand different people with all of these unique values, beliefs, experiences, and memories, we need to put ourselves into their shoes. Covey also talks about autobiographical response in conversation. Now, these include evaluate, which is agree to disagree, probe, ask questions from your own frame of reference, interpret, explain motives and behavior based on your own motives and behavior, and finally, advise, which is give counsel based on your own experience. Looking at habit 6, synergy. It's all about valuing and accepting diversity and differences among different individuals from different places, cultures, and countries. It's also about fostering cooperative, collaborative efforts in order to achieve better results. Finally, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts when people work together. Now, this is all about being able to work with people depending from where they're from, and being able to adapt and change based on situations that you find yourself in. Last but not least, habit 7, sharpening the saw. Now, habit 7 is all about bringing all other 6 habits into one entity. Now, Covey categorizes sharpening the saw into 4 sections, which include physical, social, emotional, mental, and spiritual. Now, physical involves taking care of your body through proper nutrition, exercise, and rest. When you're physically fit, you have more energy, which allows you to be more productive. Secondly, social and emotional, which is all about nurturing your social and emotional well-being, which means building and maintaining positive relationship with others. Also includes practicing empathy, communication, and cooperation. Thirdly, mental. This is all about feeding your mind with learning, reading, and expanding your knowledge. This keeps your mind sharp and adaptable. Finally, spiritual. This isn't limited to religious beliefs, but involves understanding your purpose, values, and principles, which are big parts of earlier habits. It's about connecting your inner self and living in alignment with your core beliefs. Covey believes that if you dedicate time regularly to renew and improve yourself in these 4 areas, you become a more efficient and balanced person. Now, moving on to public versus private victories. The first 3 habits, be proactive, begin with the end in mind, and putting first things first, are categorized as the private victories because this is where you're working on yourself, improving skills and attributes personally before you're putting that into practice, which is where the public victories come into place. These are the next three, which are think win win, seek first to understand, then to be understood, and finally synergize. These are the public victories where you put what you learned from the first three habits into practice for these three habits. And finally, habit seven, which includes all six habits. Now, moving on to the Myers Briggs personality types, which are categorized into four key sections. These sections include extroversion versus introversion, sensing versus institution, thinking versus feeling, and finally, judging versus perceiving. When I did the personality type, I was categorized as an entrepreneur. You can see some of the characteristics on the screen, which include extrovertedness, observant thinking, prospecting, and assertiveness. Additionally, it says that entrepreneurs are savvy, energetic, and perspective people who enjoy living life on the edge. I think this describes me best, but I was somewhat surprised when doing the test that I was all of these things. I thought that I was a little more introverted rather than extroverted. However, after taking the test, it says otherwise. Now let's look at Goleman's leadership styles. As you can see, there are six, including democratic, affiliative, authoritative, coercive, coaching, and besetting. Personally, I'm more of a democratic leader. The reason being is democratic leaders like to involve their teammates in decision making. They like seeking input and value the opinions of their teams. I try and implement these things when I adapt the role of a leader in certain situations. Additionally, I like the coaching style as well, as coaching leaders like to focus on developing the long term strengths of their team members by providing guidance, support, and opportunities for people to develop their skills and attributes. Finally, let's look at my personal mission statement, which is to live life with empathy, authenticity, and growth. I want to create meaningful connections with new people and continue to grow my already made connections. I'm always striving to align my actions with my values of family, friends, kindness, honesty, and resilience. In my life, I aim to make a positive impact in the world and hopefully within sport. I aim to achieve my personal mission statement using Covey's 7 habits of highly effective people, Goleman's leadership styles, Myers Briggs personality types, and finally, Rolf's model of reflection. Thanks, and I hope you enjoyed the video.